Happy South by Southwest from us to you.
Woo!
Hi, Luke. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. I am sitting downtown
Mhm.
in a tented camp. The elephants have taken over, and that's why I've made a shelter for myself in this tent.
Oh, got it. Got it. Yeah, yeah.
Luke, guess what?
Uh-huh. I'm listening.
You're listening. You got it. Here we go. Listen,
Yeah, I'm ready.
I have some stuff for us. It's
Okay.
called what we're talking about today.
Woo!
How do we find purpose in other people's stories? How do we
Ooh.
maintain true to ourselves while still supporting others?
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I think to myself, Luke's going to love this. He's going to
Yeah.
go, ooh.
That's exactly what I did.
And I'm going to feel proud of myself. I
It's
was
great.
thinking, I was thinking last week we were talking about our own purposes, like just how do we is does
Mhm.
purpose find us, right?
Yeah.
Do we seek out our own purpose, or does purpose find us? And I was thinking we got to a spot where we were talking a lot about, oh, not flipping or changing, but being flexible in
Yeah.
our purpose,
Okay.
and sort of being flexible for other people and whatnot. And
Mhm.
that got me thinking about this, which is, what if in some situations our purpose is to support someone?
Right.
That's our purpose. But when that gets long, when
Mhm.
time passes, I feel like you can start to lose your own identity, or
Yeah.
start to lose your own way, and really start focusing on one person's uplifting.
Mhm.
And I was wondering how, yeah, I wanted to talk about how improv helps us sort of navigate away from that, sort of, yeah, hold on to who we are.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I kind of want to go backwards. I want to start with the second question and then go to the first question. Um, so like what's true Venn diagram. So what's true about drama therapy as well as improv is that you know, there's in certain points there's a time where you have people who are audience members who are watching, and then people that are on stage or who are on stage, um, and so like you can like just in that reflection and observation, it's structured in a way where you can give feedback and be like, hey, I resonated with what your character was doing or what the scene was, or on stage being like, I was resonating with what my scene partner was doing, or I felt it when the audience was with me versus not with me. um,
Mm.
and so I feel like those are kind of the beginnings, like the embers of how to if you find resonance in something, you'll find ways to support because you'll find some meaning for yourself in there, um, and find ways to support there.
So there's like this. I'm reiterating what you said for understanding. So
Hmm.
even within supporting somebody else,
Yeah.
you can find the thing that's resonating with you, and
Hmm.
so it feels like you're vibing, for a better lack of
Right.
a
Right.
better word,
Yeah. Yeah.
at least on the same page. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like you're doing something completely out of character. You can, because you're finding this resonance with the person you're supporting.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so so in that sense you can start like comparing, for lack of a better word, but like you can start like seeing the similarities and differences of um your own thought process versus what's happening on stage, or vice versa. um
I want to do an exercise with you.
Great.
Okay.
I'm so
I want to,
excited.
and I know, right? We've done it before. We've done it a million times, but I
Okay.
want to see if we can talk through it with this idea in mind.
Okay.
So let's mirror. Let's do a mirroring
Great.
exercise, right?
Okay.
So let's be obvious and let's have you lead. Let's have you lead
Okay.
right now. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna see if I can talk. Man, this is so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna see if I can talk and do the exercise. So when someone else is leading right now, my purpose feels like it's to support them completely. Like this is what I'm doing. I'm just following Luke, right? I'm just following Luke. And then if I start completely leading, which I'm gonna do now,
Uh,
I know it's hard.
yeah.
Right? If I start completely leading, my expectation is that Luke will do what I say.
Yeah.
Luke will do what I say. But sort what I'm trying to model is what you're talking about, Luke, which is if we're both leading. So if we're both taking little, yeah. So what's happening now is so good. What's happening now is incrementally, like I get to see what you want and I get to do what I want and know that I'll be supported. And like you said, it's like I don't have to give up everything about myself. I
Yeah.
still support, I can still maintain who I am. Oh my gosh, so cool. I can still maintain who I am because of what you said, because I am picking the things that sort of inspire me and moving on that. Yeah, does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah. 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 I was like,
Right?
oh my
Because
gosh,
you,
man.
yeah, I guess so. We're clapping now, but yeah, this idea
Yeah.
that you're finding the thread. You were saying you're finding the thread or the place that you can resonate on
Hmm.
within supporting that person, and you're
Right.
going with that, like, oh, this, and with when we're talking about being on stage, you're like, oh, that inspires. What Luke is doing inspires me to do this.
Yeah.
What Shannon's doing is inspire me to do this, and so we can
Hmm.
build something together, like almost a
Yeah.
whole new thing
Hmm.
that both of us are supporting each other in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I noticed with that, just doing that exercise, um, uh, like especially the third part, it was really fascinating. The first part was like, oh, it's very clear, like who's leading, who's following, because we said it.
Mm-hmm.
And the second part was like we slowed down. We intentionally slowed down to be like, I'm really gonna make sure that I'm matching with my senior partner to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that we're both on the same page, and
Yeah.
finding and we're sharing.
Right.
Uh, and like and yeah, once again, I really liked what you had said about like you're not losing a sense of yourself, but you're kind of I guess you're yourself as a base, but you're extending out. Sorry,
That's
that was very close to the camera. So extending out, yeah, extending out to your scene partner, in a way
mm-hmm.
that is comfortable for you, and finding a balance with that.
Yeah.
So
And the one of the things that you just said in there, slow. You
yeah.
slowed down. We slowed down.
Hmm.
And there's something we're talking about finding a balance on stage with your scene partner.
Hmm.
And you can do that physically going slow, speaking slowly, slowing your heart rate. And then when we take that off stage, depending on what it is, whether that's creating a project together,
Hmm.
trying to support someone through grief, trying to support someone through joy, if you're sort of asking a question every movement you are making,
Hmm.
and that question is this okay, right? Is this
Yeah.
okay? And
Yeah.
there is that going slow, because it takes a little while for the person to receive the question,
Hmm.
process the question, answer the question.
Right.
And there is a slowness, a real nice give and take and time that we
Hmm.
have to support each other so that we don't lose ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And with drama therapy, like when we're talking about a specific situation in our lives, we need to slow down. We need to be like, hey,
Mhm.
I need to give you the context of what this is, in order to figure out new pathways with it. Like if I give you a character from my a person from my past, I need to give you like a clear phrase or a clear word that represents that person, so
Hmm.
I can navigate it. So I can feel supported, but then also like I can bounce off of that
Hmm.
to figure out new pathways. Um,
The you talking about the context and figuring out new pathways as far as feeling supported makes me think
yeah,
of scene painting,
yeah,
right? It's like you can, I feel like I can be like, oh, I'm a
yeah,
bear, right?
yeah,
And just we have no context. I could get on stage, roar,
mhm,
I'm a bear,
yeah,
and that could have no context. But
yeah,
if I go, roar, I'm a bear, and somebody comes on and they scene paint and they're like, this is, a young bear going to bear school for the first time,
right,
practicing in their mirror, and then
yeah,
they leave. Now we have like this new, roar, I'm a bear. Like, oh,
yeah,
maybe it's not so scary, or maybe they're not attacking people in the woods, this bear.
right,
Maybe they're just
yeah,
real intimidated themselves or trying to be intimidating.
hmm
And that that context that you're talking about gives, when we scene paint like that, we give ourselves things to work with, we give our partners something to work with, so that everyone knows what role, like
yeah.
how to support this initial offer.
hmm Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I mean, like, yeah, giving the context is so important. Because like it just helps everyone get on the same page, and then also, yeah, like, yeah, that giving that context of just the bear, it's just like, like, oh, because the sub part of it is like, oh, I'm being intimidating, but I'm being intimidating in the mirror, and so like I'm trying to be intimidating. I'm trying to, like, we all know what it's like to want to build confidence and
Mhm.
to not be intimidating all the time, but but building confidence, and what does it mean to navigate your way, in school. We all know that,
Mhm.
and so like it's kind of cool to, like, there's with one context, there's a couple different subcontexts that come up too.
Mhm.
So that's cool.
This real world chat. I remember. Uh-oh, here it comes. I remember when I was going through my divorce. I was going through a divorce, and people would, I would, I would say, people would ask me how I was doing. New people first in particular, be like, "Oh, how are you doing? What's up? What's up with you?" And I'd
Yeah.
be like, "Man, well, I'm going through a divorce." In that tone, I'm going through a divorce, and sometimes I would get congratulations, and,
Right.
and like, okay, and the interesting part about that is it helped me to really think about framing or reframing what I was going through, right? Because
Yeah.
in my head, like, a divorce is really negative, but for
Yeah.
some people, it's not. It could be the opposite. It could be all sorts of it could have all sorts of different contexts,
Right.
and it having those contexts help us frame how we're, as we're talking about how do we find purpose in other people's stories, like,
hmm
oh, what how do I find context? What is the context of me
Yeah.
being in your story,
Yeah.
right? Like, how does that help me either change or navigate better this whatever relationship we're talking about?
hmm Yeah. Yeah. Like, and because once you have the context of another person's story, you can see how that context, relates and doesn't relate.
Mhm.
There's lots of times, like, with like, there are lots of stories that I come back to, a lot of movies that I come back to, a lot of that I just love, and if I extrapolated further, and if I took a little bit more time to reflect on, like, why I like these stories so much, I would find a lot of resonance with, like, this sci-fi book called The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. It's just like, like, because it's so fascinating to see, like, how people and interpret a new planet over time, and what the context is, and um, but it's also just a lot of different perspectives with it. And I'm finding a lot of resonance with some stories and others. And like there's one story that talks about like this one kid. He's traveling through this town, and everyone sees this one kid as their kid. And it turns out that that kid uh, can shapeshift into anybody's person that they were missing from their past. And so, but the reason that I haven't read that story, that story in a long while. But the thing that I still
Yeah.
resonate with is the fact that, like, lots of times I feel like I have to like put on a face with this context. I have to put a face with this context. I have to, a lot of different jobs. Like I have to be teacher in a teacher mode. I have to be participant in a participant mode, and things like that. So it's a lot of like different changings that I have to do in one day.
Mm-hmm. This is inspiring me because it hit me just now where it almost doesn't matter. Like you're changing into let's say you're moving through the world and you're like, okay, I'm going to walk into this space and I'm in teacher mode.
Right.
That's my purpose here. But at the same time, you you might have people in there who don't see you as teacher. Maybe they see you as friend. Maybe they see you as brother. Maybe they see you as whatever. And there is some interesting things that happen when we think that we're wearing one persona, right? But whoever is seeing us is reframing our purpose to them, right?
Yeah.
They're just like, oh Luke, he's my best friend. Oh Luke, he's my accountant.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're thinking like of the accountant, that's my best friend, right? Whatever.
Right. Yeah.
There's something interesting about being aware of the context that people are putting you in.
Yeah. And it is really fascinating. Like sometimes there are contexts that I'm like, I don't fit that context that you think you think I am. And like I was talking about the other day where I had gone up for an audition, and uh and I to this day I still feel like they wanted me to be more, I don't know, like more broy, more masculine than I am, or than I think I am. And I, I'm like, I can't. I'm sorry, that's just not me. And so like I can only be me in the context that I know myself. So yeah.
I resonate with that because I was at an audition once where I read the lines and I did it the way I would do it. And the feedback I got was, could you do it a little more?
Oh no! Oh God!
And it was like, could you do it? And people in the room, and I'm sure this is like exactly what you're talking about. Like, well, like it's a sports drink commercial, so could you be a little more?
Yeah, a little bit. Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And there is, Luke, when we're talking about that on stage, right? I remember a student, a gay male student, talking to me about how when he gets on stage, people label him or associate him as being a hetero man. So he's always married to a woman. He's always cutting down trees and a plumber or
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh no, yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And
Yep.
he was telling me
Yeah.
that it's difficult to navigate, because what I'm like, oh man, we're veering. Let's see if we can keep on the I
Okay.
like
Okay.
the,
Yeah.
but
Oh, yeah.
yes, this exact thing. How do
Yeah.
we find purpose in other people's stories, when other people, those other people being the audience, or even your own improv
Hmm.
members, right? Improv troupe, who are just like, yeah, we're married, we're a hetero couple. Like, how
Yeah.
do you, can you shift? Is it possible? And I think it goes back to what you were saying
Hmm.
with, yes, you can find um, inside that narrative
Hmm.
something that you resonate with. And if you're really like in here somewhere,
Yeah.
if you're in there, you can also find a narrative that fits you better.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out how to lean into the offer.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
In a drama therapy sense, if that happened where a client was like visibly uncomfortable by what they were given, then we would like have a reflection time to talk about it and to navigate it further and to change it right there.
Same
And
thing on the improv
on the
stage.
improv side, yeah, 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 and be like new choice, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right. And
yeah,
sometimes, and this is really important for us to say, like, we're talking about keeping to yourself,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that is important. So for you, it sounds like in that audition mode, you're like,
Mhm.
no, I read the lines like I can read the lines.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, or
Because
I'm being the person. And for me, it was the same. It was the same thing. I was like,
yeah,
this is how I can produce. This is what
yeah,
I can produce.
yeah. Because if you continue going into that kind of context, like it's going to inhibit you. It's going to inhibit you as an artist, and it's gonna you're not going to give the best of yourself because you're going to be thinking about like I have to present only in this context and I feel limited and like
Mhm.
yeah. And so I think to maintain true to ourselves while supporting others, you have to have a sense of comfort for what you're giving. And so if you're drama therapy wise, if you're comfortable, to be on stage and to try out different things, that's great. If you're more comfortable about like, you know what, I'm not comfortable being going first. Like I kind of want to see how it functions,
Mhm.
or I'm only comfortable saying like one word to represent this character for this other person. So I think comfort level has a huge amount of
Yeah.
finding your purpose because comfortable in your context to find your purpose. Yeah.
Hmm. And we do this also, we can do this improv wise before shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, we can check in with each other. We can
Hmm.
tell people what our context of the day is. I want to
Yeah.
stay away
Yeah.
from these narratives, these stories, these suggestions, because my context of the day is I'm tired, I'm sleepy,
Yeah.
I miss my whoever, I miss whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah,
And
that's what
yeah.
I say about that.
And also, I mean, in a very like I was doing I'm in a silent improv troupe, and like we were talking about like just physical comfort, being like, hey, I don't want to be like touched on my shoulder, or nobody lean on my back for some reason.
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm.
because I have an injury, like, and so it's just it's very uh uh it's very easy to ask and to be aware of, like, okay, cool, we can't do any handstands tonight. Not
Hmm.
everyone feels comfortable doing that,
Yeah.
and we work around it, and it's fine,
Hmm.
to know those.
That fits right directly into that second, like, how do we maintain true to ourselves while still supporting others?
Hmm.
I feel like we're touching on this thing where one,
Hmm.
the more you are yourself, as in
Yeah.
you put up boundaries and you're telling people, hey, these are my boundaries in supporting you. Like,
Yeah.
you need me to clean your entire pool. Here are my boundaries. I can only clean the shallow end.
Right.
Like,
That's it. Yeah, that's
or,
fine. Yeah.
or whatever it is. Maybe you can't clean the
Mhm.
pool, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I can't clean the pool, but I can clean something else, whatever it
Mhm.
is. But the more we set those parameters, the more we set those parameters, the easier it is to actually support people, so that
Yeah.
we're staying in line,
Mhm.
and it's in line with ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because I feel like we teach this in improv, but society off stage, people reinforce that the more loose you are with your boundaries, the more people feel supported.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
not what we're
no,
saying.
no, no, no. And the thing is, like there's a lot of negative reaction when you set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating. I'm just gonna say that it's just frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And like it can make people feel guilty for setting boundaries, or maybe or fearful, or worried, nervous, and anxious about setting those things in the future, because like I got so much backlash from setting this boundary last time.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, there's a reason why you need to set those boundaries. One is to take care of yourself, like the that's the main thing right there. But and then two, like this is how, and you're also sharing with everyone about like, this is how I can take care of myself and be supportive. This is how I can function in the group. And these are the ways that I'm not going to give ground on this. This is where I'm at, but I'm still willing to be a part of the group. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
these are the zones of my comfort,
Yeah.
and what I'm willing to give.
You said function well in the group, and you're still willing to be a part of the group,
Yeah.
uh, but you have these boundaries, and I it's that's so important. The part of I can function well in
Yeah.
this group with these
Mhm.
boundaries,
Yeah.
right? It's because we're in these spaces where you're functioning, right?
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
Still there.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I showed up and
Right.
I'm on time.
Right.
I'm
Woo.
plugging in numbers. It doesn't, but
Yeah.
not you're not functioning well. You're
Right.
not succeeding for yourself.
Hmm.
And when we're talking about these questions, how do we find purpose in other people's stories? It's
Hmm.
not all about like, this is your story. I guess I have to find my own purpose.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
that. It's like,
Hmm.
how do I function well in this scene with
Yeah.
this character on this stage? How do I
Yeah.
function well in this job, in this relationship, in this time?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, like if you're and if you're if you're not, if there could be something that like, hey, I this boundary is being crossed that I'm thinking about. Uh this is a factor that's getting in the way of me being the best version of myself to share.
Ooh. I'm just going to repeat it. This is a factor of me getting in the way of being myself,
Yeah.
to share.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, Friends, we're coming up. Like, I like it when Luke just like boop.
Yeah.
Okay, so just like does it. It happens basically every show, and I would like to say, let's see. We're talking about being yourself. We're talking about being yourself so that we can set boundaries, so that we can find our purpose in other people's stories and maintain who we are on and
Off the stage.
that's right. Okay. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.